I met a guy who wrote for a magazine, and he was interested to do a story on me because of my rapping. So when he actually came to see me in Brownsville and came to my crib and all that, he saw the pictures everywhere and the clothing and all, and he asked me, "Are you a lowlife?" I said, "Yeah, I'm one of the founders of Lowlife." So, the direction of the interview went all the way into Lowlife. Like, the interest was so crazy there.
Yeah, check it out. I'm your host, Corey Cambridge. Yeah. Everybody tuning in, you invited. No matter what mood you in, get excited. Everybody love the music, let me tell you how they do it. Whether writer or an agent, let me tell you how they made it. You are now talking to a silent giant. Wanna walk in their shoes, silent giants. Wanna study they moves, silent giants. Wanna know what they do, silent giants. Silent giants, y'all.
Welcome to the Silent Giants Podcast, a podcast highlighting the superstars behind your favorite superstars in creative industries. I'm your host, Corey Cambridge. To keep up with the latest on the show, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Silent Giants Podcast. To keep up with my life, music, and more, be sure to follow me as well at Corey Cambridge. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, Thirstin Howl III, the silent giant behind Ralph Lauren. Thirstin co-founded New York City's infamous Lowlife crew. Lowlife is credited for making Ralph Lauren's Polo brand a staple in the hip-hop community. In this interview, Thirstin dials in to chat about growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, founding Lowlife, and his legacy on hip-hop fashion. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the fashion icon, artist, influencer, my friend, the silent giant, Thirstin Howl III. All right, Thirstin, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Man, life is good. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn. I'm from the Marcus Garvey Village in Brownsville, Brooklyn. That's a housing complex. That's where I was raised at.
And what was it like growing up in Brownsville?
It was pretty crazy. At the same time, it was a lot of fun growing up in Brownsville. Definitely a strange environment for people who don't know what Brownsville is all about or understand Brooklyn, A lot of housing projects, a lot of crime, a lot of drugs, a lot of police everywhere. That's what growing up in Brownsville is like. I got two younger sisters that I lived in an apartment with in Marcus Garvey, as well as with my mother. We didn't have much family in the area. All my family was scattered around and things like that, but not too many family members visited us either in Brownsville, just a selective few that were familiar with the area or from those places. So I basically kind of grew up without my family, throughout my teenage years and things like that. So, just my immediate family, meaning my mother and my sisters.
Were you really into school? Did you enjoy school? Did you do well in school?
No, I was someone who really wasn't into school, and neither was I forced, or neither were the ideas of the education really presented to me. As a young kid, man, nobody really instilled the importance of the education. I basically dropped out in junior high school, So, it's, like I said, my mother was constantly in and out of prison and things like that, so we never had a phone at home. So, whenever my mother would get locked up, we wouldn't have a clue of where she was. We had no phone. There was no communication coming in at home and things like that, so I didn't have to go to school. When I woke up in the morning, I didn't feel like going to school. I didn't go. There was nobody there to force me to go to school.
Who were your early influences, or as far as role models, during that time?
I mean, within Brownsville, my early influences were probably the hip hop artists, things like that, what I was seeing and hearing within the music. or the graffiti writers and the gangsters in the neighborhood, you know, people who were feared. And those were people who I kind of admired, you know.
Who were some of the hip-hop artists that had a big influence on you?
Like I always say, Jimmy Spicer had a big influence on me as far as being a character in the raps and things like that, becoming another personality. I think he really paved the way for that, for all the artists that came after him, like Slick Rick and Dana Dane and Rappin' Duke and things like that.
And before you founded Low Life Crew, who were your early fashion influences?
The streets. You know, I wasn't too familiar with who the designer was and things like that, but we were familiar with the brands. But it was more the streets, you know, the way things were worn on the streets, you know, like those leather outfits Run DMC used to wear. You know, that was happening on the streets, so I wasn't influenced by Run DMC to wear them. I was influenced by the streets. And the same with the sheepskin coats and the gazelles and all that. This was being presented more on the streets than it was actually in the hip-hop. I mean, it came into the hip-hop and things like that, but the effect was from the streets, man. So whatever I seen going on in the hood and the styles from the hood and, you know, the gangsterism in the style.
So tell me the story of how Low Life was founded.
I mean, Low Life was founded in 1988. It was founded by, you know, two different group of kids from two different sections of Brooklyn. From the Crown Heights area where the Ralphie's kids lived on St. John's Place in Utica. And then, you know, there was the kids from the Marcus Garvey Village in Brownsville. It was a whole nother side of things. It was founded in 88 as far as Low Life is concerned, but their history and style and influence went years before that, you know, like it was already happening many years before Low Life was actually even born, you know. So we basically came together and we became walking billboards for Ralph Lauren and things like that, you know, just having a hood style and swag and just going all over New York City and showing the rest of New York how we was doing it. You know, we was always at every concert, every movie screening, you know, whatever was going on in hip-hop, we were there at the time. So, and we were basically showing off our styles. And, you know, a lot of people know the story that it came from a lot of shoplifting and rushes in stores and things. You know, there was a variety of ways that we got our hands on these clothes. It wasn't just all the boosting or buying, and, you know, there was 1,000 ways. You know, some dudes had chicks working in Macy's, and, you know, we also had a trade system. We had a bunch of things, you know. But the thing was to accumulate as much flyness as you can and be able to switch it up as much as you wanted to.
And what was the reason, do you think, for the original reason for starting Low Life?
Poverty and struggle. We had no real intentions of anything, you know. It was just what our day-to-day life consisted of. So, you know, we had a lot of kids in Low Life that came from dysfunctional households, man. So what was happening on the street was only one aspect of what you had to deal with inside your own home. So that's, you know, one of the reasons things became a brotherhood and things like that. You know, we all were basically outlets for each other in some form or fashion. You know, just being there, just surviving together, you know, handling the things that were approaching us on the street as well. You know, living in Brownsville and Crown Heights, things were really crazy in the 80s, you know. It was a family. Like I said, like you asked me earlier, I only had my mother and my two sisters in my project, you know. There were a lot of Low Lives where everybody had like 4 or 5 different cousins in different apartments in the projects and things like that, you know. So it was just me and my 2 sisters and my mom. So like you said, it was a family because these were the people I looked to and trusted and people I could rely on and people I spent my day-to-day activities with.
And so what attracted you and the other guys to Ralph Lauren and Polo? What did it represent to you?
I mean, it was more the fashion evolution of things because, I always explain it started way before Polo, the coordination of the gear and things like that. It happened many years before we even looked at the Polo. It was an evolution, the Puma suits and the Kangos and the Adidas suits and the Lee jeans, the Lee suits, the Adidas shell toes, leather blazers, Beaver Kangos, It was a process that all led up to the Polo, but we were still doing it in the same manner before the Polo. It was basically a B-boy style still. You know what I mean? So what made the Polo so attractive and attracted us to it and things like that is because it wasn't available in your local stores almost at all. You had to go to these high-end stores to actually get this kind of clothing. They didn't sell it on Pickett Avenue in Brownsville. They wasn't selling it downtown Brooklyn unless you went to Macy's or A&S and things like that. So it was pretty exclusive. You had to venture out of your neighborhood to find these clothes.
Like, who put you onto it? Like how did you discover Polo and Ralph Lauren?
All of us were heavy into the Benetton when Benetton came out. So, here we go. We off to New Jersey, getting on buses and, trying to find malls and outlets that held this Benetton stuff so we could go take it. So we were basically influencing each other. It wasn't like I watched a soap opera or something and saw some Polo. It was just us influencing each other, by our styles. Like, my man Beck Live had a lot to do with influencing with the Polo heavy on our side. My man Hazard. Just watching each other and the different things we came across ourselves.
And so how did you all come across getting the clothes? Like you mentioned earlier about maybe somebody having a girlfriend, who worked at Macy's or something like that. What was the traditional way of obtaining the clothes?
Well, one of the ways we were coming across it was we all had messenger jobs in Manhattan. So through these jobs, we're scouting the entire city while we're working. We were foot messengers, taking the subways, going to different addresses. You might walk past the Gucci store 5 times in one day because of your routes on your messenger runs and things like that. So that was one of the main ways we were finding out where Paragons was at, where the Polo Mansion was at. It was the messenger job, and it sent us all over the city, and we really learned to see what the city was like.
What did you realize that you were having a cultural impact on hip-hop and on fashion culture? Was there a pivotal point where you were we're really influencing shit?
We never thought about this shit, man. To be honest with you, I didn't realize it until, when I became an artist doing music. And I remember my first time being approached by magazines, to do a story. I was at a battle at Rocksteady Park one year, and I'm battling everybody in the park. And, this is me brand new as a rapper, so I met a guy who wrote for a magazine, and he was interested to do a story on me because of my rapping. So when he actually came to see me in Brownsville and came to my crib and all that, he saw the pictures everywhere and the clothing and all, and he asked me, "Are you a lowlife?" I said, "Yeah, I'm one of the founders of Lowlife." So, the direction of the interview went all the way into Lowlife. The interest was so crazy there. So that's when I kind of understood the impact we were having. When, I'm meeting writers and other people in the industry that are amazed to just hear that I'm an actual lowlife. The story of the lowlife is somewhat fabled in New York City. We're mystic like the fucking Tooth Fairy or something. So many people have stories, but not everyone witnessed with their own eyes to say, wow, that really happened,
Right. I mean, it's also too. I think what's also intriguing about the story of the Low Life crew is like the polar opposite ends of the spectrum of how Ralph Lauren is represented, because they're marketed as such a high-end suburban preppy brand. But it's very interesting how, you know, young black kids, young minorities from the inner cities embrace that, and it kind of flipped into its own thing. Have you ever been reached out by Ralph Lauren or by Polo at all?
Yeah, I released a book last year, and Ralph Lauren bought 5 books. That's the most reaching out they ever done. I guess they were, you know, interested to read about the story and see the pictures, but, you know, I've had several encounters dealing with the Ralph Lauren company and things like that, you know, regarding us doing movies, and you know, we've had meetings, and, you know, they basically tell us that we don't need their permission for anything with the clothing and all that, but, you know, go right ahead and use it, but they want nothing to do with us in a way. You know, our story is negative in some sorts to them, and, you know, our music is a little crazy and things like that, so they don't want no attachments to Low Life.
Like, how did you know that they bought a couple of the books? Is there like a backstory behind that?
They were purchased from the company through online.
Ah, really?
And they bought 5 books at one time.
Like, how do you feel about, you know, Ralph Lauren of the company not really embracing hip hop culture and embracing really what you've done to their brand?
I mean, I really never cared. It never mattered to me. I wasn't thinking of them when we started doing this, you know? We were just doing what we do in our way. We wasn't looking for the acknowledgement from anyone but the girls and things like that, and the respect of our peers. So, you know, it never really made a difference whether they acknowledged us or not, you know? Even though they could stand to write us a nice big check for all our promotions and things like that, but it really never mattered to me personally. You know, I'm living my life, and that's all I see this journey as. I've been living my life. There was never an intention of doing anything that's going on. All of this just happened the way it's flowing, you know?
So I'm going to put you in a hypothetical situation, all right? So imagine that I got us a nice restaurant. We're going to a Polo Club. We're going to go to Polo Club in Manhattan, and I'm going to bring you in with me. And sitting down, Ralph Lauren is at the table. Mm-hmm. And he says, yo, Mr. Howl, come have a seat. What would you want to have a talk with him about?
Maybe giving back some, you know? Like, not just to Low Lives or anything, just to the communities that have supported him, you know, to the people that they don't acknowledge, you know? Like, give back in some kind of sense, because I think we've made Ralph Lauren the only brand that's worshipped religiously in hip-hop culture, you know. Gucci maybe has the same impact, but not like Ralph Lauren. People don't collect Gucci, everything, head to toe, accessories. People buy shit that don't even fit them in Polo just to have the item, you know. So I would tell Ralph Lauren, hey, Ralph, man, you know, give back to the communities, give back to our neighborhoods, or, you know, offer some of our brothers, our members, some jobs. You know, let us be designers, let us consult, let us help. Like, give back some opportunities for all we've done. That would be greatly appreciated.
Now, you mentioned that we had definitely, Ralph is definitely, you know, the front runner of, you know, probably American fashion. But as you've documented before, Ralph is not the only brand that you like. Who would be number 2 to you as far as American fashion brands?
I would say Gucci. Gucci's like the top-notch shit. You know what I mean? Gucci makes... they don't make that much attire for the hood motherfuckers to really flip the way we flip the Ralph Lauren stuff. But, you know, I would say they're probably the most respected after Polo. Or maybe even before Polo, because they're way more expensive.
So how do you feel about the change? How do you feel about the change of old New York to New York today, and how do you think that's influenced the art here?
Change is inevitable, man. There's nothing you could do about it. Some people don't know how to embrace change or evolve with change, man. I'm one of those people who understand how necessary change is. Nothing is going to stay the way you like it all the time. That's something I understand. You know, even when it comes to the music, I look at my generation on how much they hate the trap music and these artists and all that, but it's still evolution, you know, because the generation before us hated our hip-hop in the same way the trap is being looked at. You know, so I'm kind of understanding to how things change and the generations before do not accept it, you know, but I understand what it is, man. I mean, I respect it. The biggest thing I could say about the gentrification in New York, they're really cleaning it up, you know, like they're cleaning it up. It's sad that they're pushing out the people who can't afford, but if you own your properties and things like that, you know, the gentrification, you actually benefit from it. Right. You know, you benefit from it by selling your property at a crazy high value, or you benefit from having a more cleaner, safer environment because, you know, they're focusing on the economics of it all and bringing it up from that standpoint. And it's understandable, you know, like intertwine yourself within it. But even from the art perspective, you know, I live over here in Wynwood in the art district of Miami where Art Basel happens. So basically the same thing happened over here. You know, I've been back and forth in this neighborhood since 1974. And I've seen gentrification just happen recently. I've seen the transition of the entire neighborhood. I've seen it turn into the art district. And I've seen how every artist who exists here can benefit from this platform now, if they choose to first.
Right.
You know?
Well, Thirstin, I want to say, man, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me again today. I really appreciate it.
All right, that's cool.
Take care, my man.
All right.